The twin suns burned low over the red horizon as Jace Rowan stood beside what was left of his farm. Smoke curled from the black soil where his barn once stood, and ash stuck to his boots like old memories. He was a soldier once, proud and whole. But that was before the Orion campaign took his arm and half his hope. The war ended. But for Jace, it never really stopped. Every night he still heard the screams and the sound of plasma fire echoing inside his mind. Now his world was smaller, a lonely patch of land and a metal prosthetic that clicked whenever he tried to lift something heavier than a shovel. His neighbors had long left this colony after the raiders came. The crops burned, the house half destroyed, and the only sound left was the wind brushing across empty fields. Jace tried to rebuild, day after day, using one arm and pure stubbornness. But everything he fixed seemed to fall apart again. One night he sat by the flickering hololamp inside his broken home, staring at an old data screen that still worked. The Galactic match service message blinked again and again like it was waiting for him. Compatible partner found. It read. He laughed bitterly, thinking it was another scam. Who would want a broken man with one arm, a burned farm, and a dead past? But curiosity was stronger than pride. He clicked the message. A profile opened, showing the face of an alien girl with silver eyes and blue skin. Her name was Liara. Her message was short. I choose you. 3 words that made him stare longer than he should have. For a moment he imagined what it might be like to have someone to talk to again. Someone not made of ghosts and echoes. Jace didn't believe in luck or miracles anymore. But something about those silver eyes felt real. Maybe it was the loneliness. Or maybe it was the quiet way she looked straight into the camera. Not like pity, but like understanding. He accepted the offer with a shaky sigh, half expecting nothing to happen. Days passed. The sky stayed empty, and he almost forgot about it until one evening the ground began to tremble. A small transport ship broke through the clouds and landed near the edge of his property. His heart pounded, dust swirling around him as he walked toward it. The door opened slowly with a hiss, and there she was, stepping down with a small pack in her hands. She was shorter than he imagined. Her blue skin shimmered under the twin suns, and her hair, silver-white like moonlight, drifted in the breeze. She bowed slightly, her voice soft but clear. You are Jace Rowan. He nodded, trying to hide his mechanical arm behind his coat. That's me, he said quietly. She looked at the burned ruins around them, then back at him with calm eyes. This place still breathes, she said. It only needs care. He didn't know what to say. Care was a word he hadn't heard in years. She smiled faintly, as if she could hear his thoughts. I am Liara. I came because your message reached farther than you think. He frowned, confused. I didn't send anything. But she only looked toward the sky and whispered, You did. In the way all lost souls call out. That night they sat near the fire in silence. He offered her a bowl of stew. She took it politely, though he noticed she barely ate. Her gaze always drifted to the window where the stars shimmered. Jace didn't ask where she came from or why she chose him. Maybe he didn't want to break the fragile calm that finally filled his home. When he went to bed, he thought it was strange how the air smelled cleaner and how the old generator hummed smoother than before. The next morning, he stepped outside and froze. The soil that had been dead for months now glowed faintly with green light. Small shoots of grass pushing through the ash. He looked around, eyes wide, and saw Liara kneeling in the field with her hands pressed to the earth, silver light moving through her fingertips like veins of living energy. She looked up and smiled. I told you, the land still breathes. Jace stood there speechless, not knowing if this was magic or science, only that something impossible was happening before his eyes, and for the first time in years, he felt something stir inside him again. Hope, fragile but alive. The same hope that once carried him through the battlefield, now whispering that maybe, just maybe, this strange girl with silver eyes had brought life back to more than just the soil. The days that followed felt unreal for Jace Rowan. He had lived in silence for so long that even the sound of another person's footsteps felt like thunder in the house. Liara moved with quiet grace, Her bare feet never seemed to make a sound on the floorboards. She spent mornings walking through the blackened fields, touching the earth like she was listening to it. And somehow, wherever her hands pressed, small sparks of green began to appear. Jace pretended not to notice, afraid that asking questions would make it stop. At first he treated her like a guest, but she behaved like she belonged there, fixing small things without being told, repairing the water lines, cleaning soot off the windows, humming strange songs in a language he didn't understand. Her voice was soft, but it carried something old, something that made the air feel lighter. At night, Jace sat by the fire sharpening his old knife while she sat beside him weaving thin strands of light through her fingers. He finally asked her what she was doing, and she smiled. "Remembering," she said simply. He didn't know what that meant, but he let it be. One evening the wind grew harsh, and a storm rolled in from the northern ridge. The roof began to creak under the pressure. Jace rushed to secure the panels, but his one arm made it hard. Before he could shout for her to stay inside, Liara was already on the roof beside him, her hair whipping in the storm, her eyes glowing silver. Lightning flashed across the sky, and he saw her raise her hands toward the wind. The storm bent around them like it was avoiding her. The next moment everything went still, no thunder, no rain, only calm. Jace stood frozen, breathing hard. "What are you?" he asked. She looked down at him, the glow fading. "Just someone trying to keep you safe," she said softly. They climbed down in silence. Inside the house he sat at the table, his hands shaking slightly. She poured him water, and he stared at her. "People don't bend storms," he muttered. Liara looked away. "On my world we do," she answered. "It is not power, it is balance. Your world is full of noise. It has forgotten how to listen." Jace didn't know what to say. He had seen war machines, plasma cannons, alien weapons that tore apart tanks. But this was different. It wasn't violence. It was control. Quiet and calm. Over the next few days he watched her closer, not with fear, but with wonder. She spoke little, but everything she did felt purposeful. She spent long hours outside as if drawing strength from the soil. The once dead crops now showed small green stems everywhere, and the air smelled alive again. One night Jace found her sitting by the fence, eyes closed, her palms pressed to the dirt. "You should rest," he said. She smiled faintly. "So should you, soldier," she whispered. The word soldier caught him off guard. He hadn't told her that. He looked at her sharply. "How do you know that?" She opened her eyes, silver light flickering in them. "I saw the war in your scars," she said. "You carry it like a mark on your soul." Jace felt something twist inside him, a memory of battlefields, of men screaming under alien skies. He wanted to speak, but words failed him. Liara stood and gently touched his metal shoulder joint. "You think you lost something," she said, "but I see only what you kept. Your will." He turned away uncomfortable, but her touch lingered like warmth through the cold night. Later that night, as he tried to sleep, he heard soft humming again, and a faint silver glow leaked under his door. When he opened it, she was outside again. Standing in the middle of the field, light swirling around her hands like mist, he watched silently from the doorway, afraid to interrupt, afraid to believe, and yet unable to look away. By dawn, the entire stretch of farmland shimmered with dew, green and gold under the sunrise, and for the first time since the war, Jace smiled, because it finally looked like home again. Jace Rowan had begun to accept the impossible as normal. Each morning the land looked greener, the air smelled fresher, and his heart felt lighter. Liara moved through the fields like she had lived there forever, her hands always glowing faintly when she touched the soil. Sometimes Jace caught her staring at the horizon, her silver eyes distant, like she was listening to something far away. He wanted to ask what she was hearing, but something told him she wouldn't answer. One evening as the suns dipped low, he saw her standing in the middle of the field again, her arms raised, silver lines pulsing through her veins like lightning under skin. The earth shimmered around her, and he felt the ground vibrate under his boots. "Liara," he called out, "stop! You're going to hurt yourself." But she didn't stop. Instead, she turned slowly, her eyes glowing bright white. "They will come soon," she said softly, her voice echoing like it came from two people at once. They felt my energy. They always come. Jace frowned. Who's coming? She looked at him with sorrow in her eyes. The Dominion, she whispered. They destroyed your farm because they were searching for me. The words hit him harder than any plasma round. He stared at her, anger and confusion boiling together. You mean they burned everything because of you? He shouted. She looked down, tears glimmering silver. I didn't mean for anyone to get hurt. I was running, hiding, trying to disappear. He wanted to stay angry. But something inside him broke at the sight of her crying. He sighed and sat on the broken fence. Tell me the truth, Liara. Who are you? She sat beside him slowly, the glow fading from her skin. My people are called the Sereni. We were guardians of living worlds. We could heal land, calm storms, even mend dying stars, but power attracts greed. The Dominion wanted to use us as weapons. They burned my world and hunted us down. I am the last one. Jace's throat went dry. He had seen monsters in war, but this felt worse. A whole species destroyed because they could heal. Why come here? He asked quietly. She looked up, her silver hair reflecting the last light of the sunset. Because your world called to me, she said. It is broken, like you, but still fighting to live. For a long time, neither of them spoke. The wind brushed through the new green plants that covered what was once ash. Jace looked at his metal arm, the faint hum of the servo inside, and then at her hands, glowing softly like living stars. You could have gone anywhere, he murmured. She smiled sadly. No, I couldn't. Not after I saw you. Her voice trembled. When I looked into your file, I felt something. Pain, loss, strength. It was like finding a heartbeat in the dark. Jace didn't know how to respond. Words didn't fit moments like this. Finally, he said quietly, Then we protect this place. No matter who comes, she nodded. But her expression held fear. You don't understand. Jace, when they come, they won't just kill. They'll burn the soil again. They'll tear this world apart. He stood up, looking at the distant hills where the stars were beginning to rise. Then they'll have to go through me first, he said firmly. Liara stared at him, seeing the fire in his eyes, and whispered, Even broken, you still fight. He smiled faintly. That's what humans do. That night, while he cleaned his old rifle and recharged the power cell, she stood outside whispering in her strange language, lines of light spreading through the ground like roots. He didn't know what she was doing, but when the night turned quiet, he could feel something shift. The land itself seemed awake, watching, waiting. And for the first time in years, Jace didn't feel alone anymore, because now he wasn't just guarding a farm. He was guarding the last light of a dying world. The sky turned blood red as the warning siren howled across the valley. Jace Rowan stood on the porch of his rebuilt farmhouse, watching streaks of fire descend through the clouds. The Dominion had found them, just like Liara said they would. He gripped his old pulse rifle with his left hand, the metal prosthetic tightening around the grip. The air smelled of ozone and fear. Liara stood beside him, her silver eyes glowing brighter than he had ever seen. They come for me, she said quietly. But they will not take you too. Jace shook his head. Not a chance. We fight together. The first dropships landed beyond the ridge, kicking up dust as armored soldiers spilled out like insects. Plasma rifles ready. He could hear their distorted voices over comms. Ordering to capture the Sereni alive, Jace moved fast, setting charges he had buried years ago, connecting wires with his teeth in one hand. The prosthetic arm jerking as sparks flew, Liara raised her palms, silver light spreading through the soil like veins. Suddenly the wind picked up, the crops moved like waves, and the earth itself began to hum. When the first squad approached, Jace detonated the charges. The explosion lit up the horizon, throwing metal bodies into the air. Smoke covered the fields, and he crouched low behind the burned tractor, his rifle barking blue light with every shot. His heart pounded like it did on the battlefield years ago, only this time he wasn't fighting for orders or medals. He was fighting for her. Liara walked forward slowly through the chaos, her silver hair whipping in the wind. Each step she took made the ground bloom green under her feet. Plasma bolts flew toward her but vanished in bursts of silver dust before reaching her. She looked like a living storm, beautiful and terrifying. Jace shouted for her to get down, but she didn't listen. The land remembers, she cried, her voice echoing across the field. And it will fight back. The ground erupted as massive roots tore upward, wrapping around Dominion soldiers, crushing weapons and armor. The invaders screamed, firing wildly. But their shots hit nothing, Jace moved closer, shooting those who slipped through. His mechanical arm jammed twice, but he kept going. Sweat and blood mixing on his face, Liara's glow grew brighter until it hurt to look at her. The power pouring from her like liquid light, but he saw the pain in her eyes. Each burst of energy drained her. He ran to her side. "Stop. You'll burn yourself out," he shouted. She smiled weakly. "You once gave everything for war. Let me give everything for peace." Her voice trembled. The Dominion's last transport hovered above, preparing to fire. Jace aimed his rifle, but it was useless against heavy armor. Then Liara touched his shoulder, her hand warm. "Trust me," she whispered. She closed her eyes, and suddenly he felt it too. The heartbeat of the land, the hum of every root and leaf, energy rushing through him. His metal arm glowed silver as if alive. She poured her strength into him. Together they aimed at the ship, his rifle overloaded with blinding light. And when he pulled the trigger, the blast ripped through the sky, hitting the transport dead center. It exploded in a shower of fire and debris that rained down like stars. Silence followed, broken only by the crackle of flames. Jace turned to Liara, her glow fading fast. She stumbled. He caught her in his arms, her skin cold like moonlight. "Don't leave," he whispered. She smiled softly. "I am not leaving. I am becoming." He didn't understand, but her body began to dissolve into silver mist that sank into the soil, spreading like light under the ground. The fields around them turned vibrant green, flowers blooming where her tears had fallen. Jace fell to his knees, holding nothing but the echo of her warmth. The wind whispered her name through the grass, and though his heart felt broken again, he knew she wasn't gone. She was everywhere now, in the land, in the light, in the life she saved. The dawn after the battle came slow and silent. Smoke curled above the green fields where fire had burned just hours ago. Jace Rowan stood alone among the ruins, his rifle half buried in the soil, his clothes torn, his metal arm scorched and trembling. But the land around him was alive. He could feel it breathing. The black soil glowed faintly with silver veins that pulsed like heartbeats under the earth. Everywhere he looked, new life was growing. Vines twisting around wrecked machines, flowers blooming on the scorched ground. Even the broken farmhouse had begun to mend itself, as if unseen hands were repairing it. He sank to his knees, pressing his hand into the dirt. It felt warm and alive, and for a moment he could hear her voice whispering through the wind. "I am still here, Jace." His throat tightened. He looked at the horizon, where twin suns rose over the field, painting the world gold, and he smiled through the tears. "You kept your promise," he whispered back. Months passed. The colony patrols finally returned, shocked to find the once-dead valley full of life. When they asked how it happened, Jace only said, "The land healed itself, and nothing more." He stayed there planting seeds, tending crops, repairing the farmhouse piece by piece. He didn't need company. The earth spoke to him in quiet ways. Silver light sometimes shimmered beneath his steps, and the wind often carried a soft melody that sounded like her humming. Years later, the valley became famous among settlers. They called it the Silver Fields, because even at night the plants glowed faintly under starlight. Travelers who passed through said the place felt alive, like it was listening, and that the man who lived there talked to it like an old friend. Time moved on, and Jace grew older. His beard turned gray, and his metal arm rusted. But the land never aged. One evening, as he worked in the field, he saw a small child at the edge of the forest. The boy had pale blue skin and silver eyes, the same color as Liara's. He looked no older than 6, barefoot and calm, holding a tiny glowing seed in his hands. Jace stared in disbelief, his heart pounding. "Who are you, son?" he asked softly. The boy smiled. "My name is Aaron," he said. "My mother told me you would find me when the stars aligned." Jace's breath caught. His knees went weak. He knew it was true. The boy looked so much like her. The same gentle expression, the same quiet strength. Aaron walked up and placed the glowing seed in Jace's hand. "She said to give this to you," he whispered. Jace closed his fingers around it, light spilling between them. And suddenly, he could feel her presence all around. Stronger than ever. Liara's voice filled his mind, calm and warm. "You kept the promise, my warrior, and now he will keep it after you." Tears rolled down his face, but this time they were not from pain. He looked at the boy and smiled. "Then let's keep building, son." Together they planted the glowing seed in the center of the field, and within moments a great silver tree rose from the ground, its leaves shining like mirrors, its branches humming softly in the wind. People would come from distant colonies to see it. They said it was a miracle, that the old soldier and the alien child guarded a living monument that never withered. Jay spent the rest of his life under that tree, telling stories to travelers about hope, war, and love between stars. And when he finally closed his eyes for the last time, the tree's roots wrapped gently around him, glowing brighter than ever. The next morning, Irene stood where his father had fallen, the wind carrying whispers only he could hear. The world still breathes. And as he looked across the endless green fields under the twin suns, he smiled, knowing that humanity and the Serenai would never fade, because two broken souls had healed each other and turned ruin into life again.